The Galactic Academy's sprawling campus stretched across 3 terraformed moons, a monument to interspecies cooperation that had taken centuries to establish. Among its crystalline spires and zero-gravity training halls, thousands of species coexisted in an uneasy harmony dictated by strict protocols and even stricter boundaries. Lena Hart sat alone in the outer gardens, a deliberate choice. The human exchange student had learned quickly that her presence made others uncomfortable. Not threatening. Never threatening. Humans were considered physically weak by most galactic standards, their homeworld a backwater that had only recently achieved faster-than-light travel. But there was something about them that unsettled the other species. Perhaps it was their eyes, forward-facing like a predator's. Perhaps it was their stubborn refusal to acknowledge their place in the established hierarchy. She unwrapped her lunch, a simple sandwich she'd assembled from the Academy's protein synthesizers. The bread was slightly off the machines, never quite got Earth cuisine right, but it was familiar, and that was enough. A rustling in the nearby bushes caught her attention. Lena froze, her hand halfway to her mouth. The foliage parted, and a small creature emerged. No larger than a terrier but built like a miniature tank. Its 6 legs moved with predatory grace, and its triple-jointed jaw revealed rows of crystalline teeth designed to shear through bone. A Vogar cub. Lena recognized the species immediately from her xenobiology classes. The Vogar were apex predators from a death world that made Earth look like a vacation resort. They hunted in packs, could track prey across star systems using pheromone signatures, and their adults stood 3 meters tall at the shoulder. This one's mottled gray fur was still fluffy with youth, but its amber eyes held an intelligence that sent a shiver down Lena's spine. The cub was thin, dangerously so. Its ribs showed through its coat, and it moved with a desperate hunger that overrode its natural caution. It had likely wandered away from the Vogar residential sector and become lost in the massive campus. Every survival instinct Lena possessed screamed at her to run. The Academy's emergency protocols were clear. Avoid contact with Vogar juveniles, as their distress calls could summon the entire pack. But as she looked into those hungry eyes, she saw something that transcended species. A child, alone and starving. She made her decision in a heartbeat. Slowly, careful not to make sudden movements, Lena tore her sandwich in half. The cub's nostrils flared, scenting the food. Its haunches tensed, preparing to either flee or attack. Lena set half the sandwich on the ground between them and slid it forward with her foot. "It's okay," she whispered, knowing the creature couldn't understand her words but hoping her tone conveyed safety. "You must be so hungry." The cub watched her for a long moment, its head tilted in a gesture that seemed almost like confusion. Then, in a blur of motion, it snatched the food and retreated to the bushes. Lena heard the sound of desperate eating, then silence. She waited, but the creature didn't return. Shrugging, she ate her remaining half and returned to her dormitory, thinking nothing more of the encounter. The next morning, Lena was awakened by a commotion outside her window. Alarms weren't blaring, the Academy's security systems remained silent, but she could hear the unmistakable sounds of a crowd gathering. She dressed quickly and stepped outside, her breath caught in her throat. In the courtyard before her dormitory, surrounded by a respectful circle of students and faculty from a dozen species, stood an adult Vogar. Vorax, the pack alpha, was a magnificent and terrifying sight. His midnight black fur rippled over muscles that could crush steel, and his eyes, those same intelligent amber eyes, fixed on Lena with an intensity that made her knees weak. Before him lay a feast that would feed 50 humans. Exotic meats from across the galaxy, prepared in the Vogar style, raw, fresh, and radiating a pheromone signature that proclaimed this was a gift of the highest honor. Lena Hart, Vorax's voice was a subsonic rumble that she felt in her bones. The translation implant in her ear converted his growls into words. "You fed my youngest when he was lost and starving. You gave him half your own sustenance, though your species is small and requires constant nourishment. You did not harm him, though he was vulnerable. You did not call the guards to remove him, though it would have been proper." The alpha took a step forward, and the crowd collectively held its breath. A Vogar approaching a member of another species uninvited was a threat display, grounds for immediate security intervention. But something in Vorax's posture was different. His head was lowered, his stance open. "Among my people," he continued, "such kindness creates a debt that can only be repaid with equal measure. You are small, human, and your species is young in the galaxy, but you have the heart of a hunter who provides for the pack. This feast is yours, and my pack's protection is yours, for as long as you walk these halls." Lena felt tears pricking at her eyes. She understood the magnitude of what was being offered. Vogar pack protection was a sacred bond, rarely extended beyond their own species. It meant safety, respect, and status that no amount of academic achievement could earn. She stepped forward, ignoring the gasps from the crowd, and looked up at the massive predator. "I didn't do it for a reward," she said simply. "He was a kid, and he was hungry. Anyone would have done the same." Vorax's lips pulled back in what she realized was a smile, revealing teeth designed to tear through armor plating. "No, Lena Hart. Anyone would not have. Most species would have fled or called for removal. Your species sees a child in need and acts, regardless of danger. This is not weakness, as many believe. This is strength that terrifies the galaxy." He touched his massive paw to his chest, then extended it toward her, a gesture of profound respect. "The Vogar have survived because we protect our pack. Humans, I think, will thrive because you see all the vulnerable as your pack. That is why you unsettle the other species. That is why you will be feared and loved in equal measure." Lena touched her hand to her chest and extended it in return, a human gesture that mirrored his own. Around them, the crowd remained silent, witnessing something unprecedented. As she accepted the feast and the friendship of the most feared predators in the known galaxy, Lena Hart understood something profound. Humanity's strength had never been their weapons or their technology. It was their inability to look away from suffering, their compulsion to help even when logic dictated retreat. In a galaxy built on strict hierarchies and careful boundaries that made them the most dangerous species of all,